Alright, hello everybody, Seven Fox here, and today we are going to be reading Ambre. Now, Ambre is a kinetic visual novel, as I have read. It's different from like normal visual novels. Instead of making choices, it's a legitimate story that you just experience, you just read along the way. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. I think it's a little short, so I'm going to try and do this in one sitting. So without further ado, pull up a chair, lay back, grab a snack and a drink or something, because we're gonna be... I actually don't know how long we're gonna be here. Let's find out. It was 7 p.m. on that beautiful yet cold autumn day. The wind shook the frail trees' branches across the street. The street... Oh wait. Tristan Mallory. The names, man. Made his slow, tired way. A whirlwind of leaves caught his attention and he stopped to contemplate them for a few minutes. Oh God, we're one of those people. Ah yes, look at the leaves dancing in the wind. Ah, 'tis beauty of nature. A spray of colors danced around him. Fragments of red, orange, yellow spread at random, forming a mosaic that stretched on for as far as the eye could see. A rush of beauty in that gray and fuming city, that noisy metropolis that seemed constantly exhaling pollution. Oh, is this me? Is this Tristan? Coming back to his senses, the 30-year-old man shook his head. Now wasn't the time to be daydreaming. He had to go home. The long day already weighed on his shoulders, but if he was completely honest, work wasn't the most tiring thing in his life. After all, an honest, well-paid job was somewhat of a luxury these days. Like any model employee, he constantly accomplished the task handed to him, no more, no less. No, what was really destroying him was a completely different form of fatigue. An appealing and crushing solitude that had been shadowing him for years, ever since his wife... Wait, what happened to my wife? What happened to my wife? I guess we discover later on, or never know. The light... Oh my god. The light tinkling. That is the weird way to describe the lights. Tinkling at the front door brought him back to earth. I am doing just terribly so far. He was already at his flat. A sad and silent living room was waiting for him. A shiver traveled down his spine as he entered the room. You shouldn't be shivering. Unless it's really cold in your house, you shouldn't have a shiver run down your spine when you enter your home. It should be a nice warm setting to come home to. Driven by an almost desperate urge, he didn't even bother hanging up his coat before slamming open all the doors in his flat, one after the other. Each time, the same emptiness answered his pleas. He felt a rising dread within him. His last hope, the last door, the forbidden room beyond. Forbidden room? Dude, what have you got going on in here? He opened it slightly and peeked inside. Of course, there was no one inside. He fell heavily onto the sofa. The crushing solitude came back in full force, crushing him again and again, wounding his face with invisible cuts, the cuts of time, those damn wrinkles. It was happening again. All of a sudden, Tristan Mallory, I think that's what it is, Mallory, felt immensely exhausted. He held his head in his hands, staring at the floor for a long time. After what felt like an eternity, he abruptly got to his feet. He gathered all of the framed pictures on display and stowed them away in a closet. The memories needed to be out of sight. Memories of what, sir? Man, he is just not answering my questions. When he was sure that there was no more pictures sticking out, Tristan put his coat back on and rushed outside. Oh, why are we rushing back outside? We just got home. It was chilly and a bit dark. There was still enough light to see clearly. It was the ideal time to take a walk. At least, that's what he once might have thought. He hurried along the sidewalk. Tristan was anything but relaxed. He walked around the places that were most familiar to him, looking for a scenery that seemed to be definitively out of reach. While passing a park near his home, he suddenly heard a high-pitched, almost inaudible plea. His heart jumped and he stopped. What did we hear? Oh. Why, hello. I don't know what to do. A lost little girl. Oh, she's lost. Why, thank you, achievements. In the dim light of the setting sun, he made out the silhouette of a little girl sitting on a swing with her head bowed. Tears were rolling down her cheeks. Aw, no, don't cry. Afraid of startling her, he approached slowly and took a closer look. Her clothes were crumpled, and she had neither a coat nor a scarf, and she bore various scratches as if she had been in a fight. The park was completely deserted, and she seemed to have been there for a while. How long is a while? For a second, Tristan... Why are we using his full name? I find that a little strange. Tristan Mallory? That's gonna get me every time. Felt the oh my god. Temptation. It's temptation. Oh my god. Why am I making this so difficult for myself? Felt the temptation to abandon her there, to leave her to her fate. Wait, I just realized, we have a temptation to leave her? What? But very quickly he mentally chastised himself. He couldn't do that. Yeah, that's a horrible thing to do. So he placed himself in front of her and asked in a soft voice, "Is something wrong?" At first the little girl seemed not to hear him. She choked on her sobs, hiccuped, and shuddered. Patiently, Tristan Mallory, it's gonna be Mallory, it's final, Mallory, stroked her hair and repeated, "We're stroking her hair now? Listen, I thought we wanted to give her like a little we don't know this person. This is a child. We are not related to her at all. People are gonna get weird ideas. And I don't want to start this off like that. Why are you crying? What happened?" It took her several minutes to calm down a bit, but eventually she wiped away her tears and answered with a faint voice interrupted by sobs. "I don't know. I think I've lost something important. Really important. But I can't remember what it was." Tristan Mallory sighed, feeling a mixture of compassion and pity. She seemed so lost, so vulnerable. Let's not use that word anymore. He wanted to hold her so tightly that her sadness would melt away, but at the same time, a voice within was telling him that he shouldn't be too forceful, that he should just be aware of her vulnerability. So he tried to stay composed and look reassuring, yet in front of this sad little girl, he did not feel confident at all. We don't? Well, I mean, yeah. "Are you all alone? Where are Mommy and Daddy?" "I don't know." "Do you live far away from here?" "I don't know." "What's your name?" "Ambre." "Well, at least she knows something." "Well, Ambre, you can't stay out here in the wind. You're gonna catch a cold eventually, and you don't want to get sick, do you?" "No, I hate being sick." "See, you've got to warm yourself up somehow. It'll be night soon, but I don't know where to go. In that case, why don't you think about coming to my... Listen, Tristan, this doesn't look... I know your intentions are good, but to an outsider's view, this doesn't look pure and compassionate at all. It's not far away from here. and it'll be a much better place to sleep than this swing. Ambre seemed wary, but she had no other choice but to follow him. He gently reached a hand to her, and for the first time, she lifted her eyes. They were washed out, blurry with tears and hesitance. He thought it a good idea to force a smile, to appear reassuring. Even with the fatigue, Tristan Mallory showed the most convincing smile he could and took her hand, so fine, so frail, to help her get to her feet. So we're taking her to our house now. Sure, this isn't abducting. The young girl's steps were wobbly and weak. She had probably not eaten all day long. Carefully, he led her to his place while making sure she wouldn't trip. The man removed his coat and shut the front door behind them. Make yourself at home. I'll cook you something. This is so fast. Like, what? Slow down a little bit, Tristan. Passing through the kitchen, he turned on the light in the living room so that his flat would look less gloomy. While searching his fridge for a potential meal, he periodically stole several glances over the counter. In the living room, Ambre was still walking around, a bit wild, still on the defensive. She explored this new environment by looking around, admiring the ornaments. Unfortunately, she didn't find much to pique her interest. It was a bland house, almost too bland. There was no clues about its occupants' lives. Taking advantage of Tristan's being distracted by a packet of noodles, she escaped to the hallway and tried to find the bathroom. She found it quickly enough, but before returning to the hallway, she noticed that all the doors were wide open, except for one. Strangely, before she had time to think about it, she was drawn to that door. Intrigued, Ambre felt magnetically attracted by the slightly open door. Just one peek was all she wanted, but she struggled to see anything through the crack. Was this Bluebeard's cabin? Wait, what? Was this Bluebeard's cabinet? A frightening tomb where Tristan Mallory stowed the corpses of his former wives? Oh, well. Is that how she sees us? Man. The little girl pushed the door open, entered the room, and switched the light on. Oh. It was a bedroom filled with plush toys and soft cushions. And what looks like to be waffles just sitting on the table. Whose room is this? A big bed was... It better not be my room. A big bed was proudly displayed in the center of the room, accompanied by a pretty dressing table to one side. The walls were painted to look like a bright blue sky. The storage furniture, coordinated with the sweet colors of trinkets, was overflowing with mysteries. I may have added a word there, and it sounded weird when I finished. On the nightstand, she could catch a glimpse of a nightlight shaped like a cute mascot. There was a fairy-like ambience around this strange room, to the extent that Ambre couldn't repress a little exclamation of surprise. Closing the door so that the 30-year-old wouldn't discover her hiding spot, she stretched out on the colorful bed, rolled into a ball, jumped out, and snuck under the bedsheets. Inexplicably, she felt at ease in this room, worthy of a princess. It seemed to have been built for her, to correspond to her every fantasy. We haven't been stalking this little one, have we? She then approached a big teddy bear which was tempting her. She grabbed it immediately, hugged it, and covered it with kisses. Her pale face was illuminated by a wide, pure, innocent smile. A child's smile. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Tristan had finished cooking the noodles and was about to serve the meal when he noted the absence of the little girl. Slightly worried, he called for her. Ambre? Ambre, are you here? Nervous, he looked for her in all the rooms, checking first to see if she was in the bathroom. He searched everywhere in the house until there were only... The front door makes a lot of noise when it's opened, so I would have heard her if she had left. Could she actually be in there already? Oh, what is this? Oh, it's adorable. With a contrite sigh, he headed towards the fully lit forbidden room and discovered Ambre playing with stuffed animals. Why is this forbidden again? I just noticed the little green bunny has a little tear. Ah. His gaze softened. I suppose that I can't do anything, he reassured himself. Oh, we're saying that. Without a word, he went to sit next to her. On the bed, the little girl was moving the stuffed animal's hands while making them speak. In her weak voice, she was narrating a stuffed animal tea party and seemed to be enjoying herself very much. The light was back in her eyes. Suddenly, she got mad at a plump cow and scolded her harshly. What did the cow do? It's dirty. Stop it right now. You're making a mess. Allie, what did I just say? It's dirty. You've got to behave yourself. And don't roll on the floor. You shouldn't make a fuss just because you didn't get what you wanted. As punishment, she sent the cow into a corner while ordering her not to move and replaced it with a pony with long eyelashes. The stuffed animal tea party hosted by the blue monkey was obviously not going as planned. Why can't I say the name properly now? Tristan examined the little girl's every move with care. She finally noticed his presence. He felt he had to speak. Are you having fun? Yeah, I didn't know there was a bedroom like this in your house. Whose room is it? It was my wife's favorite room before she left. Wait, this was our wife's room? What happened to her? It's a long story. Maybe I will tell you another time. Meanwhile, the meal is getting cold. Don't you want to eat? I'm coming right now. What's for dinner? Spaghetti bolognese. Bolognese? Great, I love it. You do? I never even heard of that second word. That evening, Tristan Mallory, I feel like I keep switching the name, admired little Ambre as she wolfed down her food, half amused, half distracted. Seeing her so happy soothed his heart, a little bit at the same time. Are you tired? The child suddenly asked with a serious air. A little. I worked hard today. She didn't comment further, still amazed by the princess's bedroom. She revived the topic with starry eyes. Do you like it? Yeah, a lot. I wish I had a similar room. If you want, I'll give it to you. What? My wife left a long time ago. Her stuff is still inside and I don't use it, so if you like, it's yours. You can stay in her room while I'm looking for your parents and what you lost. What do you say? Can I really? But it doesn't belong to me. There is nothing sadder than a house without a life, don't you think? That's a strange saying. I know that my wife loved to rest in her favorite room. There she felt at ease, like on a cloud, but now she's not living here anymore. Since you seem to like this place, I think it would make her happy to know that her bedroom is in good hands. And I can do whatever I want in it? While I'm at work, you'll be able to play in this room as much as you want. I'll leave you some leftovers for the lunch, and you'll have to heat... Oh, you only have to heat them up in the microwave. I am just reading horribly right now. And in the evening, we'll play together if you'd like to. Do I need to go to school? No more school, only games. Well, aren't you being a... I was gonna say bad parent, but you're not a parent. You're a bad, babysitter, I guess. Yay, great! In front of Ambre's overflowing enthusiasm, Tristan Mallory couldn't help but smile faintly, almost pitifully. That doesn't look like a smile on that man's face. Yes, that's it, he kept telling himself, as if to reassure himself. All I'm doing is keeping her around until she remembers who she is and what she's lost. Waiting for her to remember. Thus began their strange routine. Tristan Mallory woke up early in the morning to go to work, but before leaving and rushing into the fog, he had to take a few minutes before facing the daily grind, a few brief minutes on the threshold to gaze at the sleeping Ambre. Then he ran away through the streets covered by dead leaves, escaping far away toward the mountains of paperwork, toward the baleful tower, oh my god, furnished by vast offices where the slaves chained to their computers toiled away for the lord of that place. Well, at least that was what the little girl thought his working day looked like. As for her, she woke up easily around 9 a.m. and her first reflex was to stretch and yawn in front of cartoons with a bowl of cereal in hand. These are adorable pictures. She followed her favorite heroine's adventure. All of them were beautiful and courageous. All of them were friends for life. Princesses with elegant superpowers covered with light effects and flower petals. Rich and beloved, they lived a perfect and inviolable existence. I think that's what it is, inviolable. Especially the main character, who owned a bedroom very similar to Ambre's. It was colorful and filled with cute accessories. However, this room was only a part of a bigger palace furnished the same way. I am reading horribly. How I would like to live in a castle as well. With cute animals as her friends, the heroine hunted the villains, fell into traps, and called for the help of her charming prince, an ideal and fantasized man who served her hand and foot. Life seemed easy, full of laughs and adventures. All that was needed was to send back the bad women to their hiding place in the darkness. After all, she was nasty because she invited the young dazzling girls, nasty because she was old and disillusioned. Ambre would have loved to have magical powers, allowing her to make cute outfits appear, allowing her to have a stable where unicorns slept, allowing her to have a ballroom where she could organize extravagant parties based on her beautiful dresses and cupcakes. It was always disappointing for her to see the end of the episode. Of course, there were other programs, but the story with magical jewels was her favorite. When the cartoons ended, she went to fill in her coloring books in her room, daydreaming about being among those heroines, and then, at midday, she'd heated up the leftovers that Tristan had left and went back to watching TV. New programs awaited her. Again, she had her favorites, the one where the little girl owned a puppy that was different from the others. It was a red puppy that could sneak around. It was so very adorable, with its big eyes and complex expressions, that it made her melt. How I would like to have a dog that cute. The meal passed quickly to the rhythm of opening songs that she knew by heart. This was usually the time Tristan chose to call to make sure everything was okay. She never missed this opportunity to tell him the content of the episodes of the day, how the heroine had defeated the evil witch with her magical mirror, or how the little dog had helped her mistress at school. Relieved, he would start eating his sandwiches without appetite, but sated by the little girl's words. Aww. She hung up, satisfied with her story, and usually turned off the television after the last cartoon to rest her big... Oh my god. Oh, okay, let's slow it down a little. To rest on her big bed, surrounded by her stuffed toys. Around this time, she usually read a fairy tale. She loved to tell herself the story of Cinderella again and again while sucking on her teddy bear's ear. It was her favorite. Wait, what? Doing what? Sucking? Ugh. People and life itself were nasty to Cinderella. She had to work hard. It was exhausting. She had to earn her meal, and the nasty, ugly sisters believed themselves superior. Fortunately, the prince yawned. The prince recognizes the heroine's natural talent. She was pretty, and she was special. He brought her to him to his castle to live a golden existence, where she wouldn't have to work her fingers to the bone, where money flowed freely, where Cinderella could have everything she wanted, including all the things that shone, accessories, dresses, cakes. All she had to do All she had to do to fill the time was to organize parties with her friends. The ugly sisters were not invited. They were too ugly, too rude, and they did not deserve such a paradise. Cinderella was happy. She knew love, true love, the only love, the love with what is that? Gliding? No, that's gilding. Gilding and glitter. I think that's what it is, right? I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it. What more could she ask? Ambre fell asleep happily, hoping to meet her charming prince one day. The one who would only have eyes for her and would give her a room like the princesses that she admired so much had. Back to the cartoons. When she opened her eyes, the little girl rushed again to the living room to watch a tape, a Disney movie. Depending on her mood, she chose one with animals or one with a couple who lived happily ever after. Often then, she watched Snow White or The Little Mermaid. Ah, the classics. Ambre loved the idea of a glass coffin containing a body that would not grow old despite death, that would remain always young and beautiful, lying in wait to be freed from her prison, for the magical kiss that would change the course of her story. The prince spirited her away from the common huts of those proletarian dwarves who were friendly but so uncouth. These are words I don't understand. She also loved the idea of a beautiful and rebellious mermaid swimming through the oceans, looking for treasure but sacrificing her freedom for the man in her life, sacrificing the endless to squeeze into the gliding, oh my god, gilded cage she had fantasized about 1,000 times. The beautiful and rebellious mermaid had never listened to anyone else, which reminded her of her own condition. She too was a sweet, capricious girl. She played these tapes on loop day after day until snack time came. By then, stuffed with idealistic images, she dug into the sweets that Tristan bought for her. Cupcakes, colorful macaroons, pastries, bread, and Nutella. Of course, there were cartoons at this time as well. As it was getting late, she finally pushed the off button to resume her fantasies elsewhere in her room. Wielding her dolls with skills, perfectly tracing the course of her dreams. And Tristan is back. But the high point of her day was probably when Tristan finally returned from work. She knew he was there from the creaking of the door. She would rush into the living room to greet him, and, all joyous, she would throw herself at him, timidly at first, then with more enthusiasm over the weeks. Wait, you stayed with us for weeks? I'm sorry. Where is your family, young one? She loved being carried on his shoulders to mimic an airplane and fly through the flat until they crashed on the bed, laughing. Playing together was so much fun. With her friend, she could give life to her characters more easily. Her favorites? Playing Mummy and Daddy. Oh god. We got a little worry thing on my face. What's going on? Ambre played the role of the mother, always occupied by the well-being of her children. A PVC doll with dead eyes supposed to embody an adorable little baby. She had to wash him, change him, cuddle him, and give him his bottle. Tristan had the role of the father. He had to read the newspaper in the kitchen while waiting for his wife to cook him a good meal, a role which hardly got him involved, but he was more than satisfied with that. Ambre took her task very seriously. She had the lead role after all. Therefore, she served her imaginary husband plastic fries and fruits with a bossy pout. He appreciated the gesture. Is that our everyday? However, the real meal was left to Tristan once the game ended, a meal which the little girl took as an opportunity to deliver the rest of her fabulous adventures. Tristan only had to listen to her with a smile on his face. Then why aren't we smiling? I'm sorry, I'm yawning a lot. Before requiring her to go to the bathroom to wash up and brush her teeth, Ambre always grumbled at bath time, but her sexless Barbie mermaid quickly helped her to forget the inconvenience. More than once, she shyly waited for the 30-year-old man to come close enough for her to shoot him with a fish-sprayed water gun. Innocent laughter would ensue. Then the little girl had to be tucked into her big princess bed while he was telling her a story, usually a fairy tale. In those moments, she blinked more and more slowly, looking up at him with a touching expression. Tristan would almost melt from cuteness. He was careful not to close the door all the way. The corridor's lights had to hunt the monsters which could disturb Ambre's sleep. It was a specific request from her. She was fearful. The man had to protect her from ghosts at the slightest shout. That was his promise to her. Before going to sleep, Tristan found some comfort in contemplating her asleep. What? Contemplating her asleep? That just sounds weird. He hoped that her sleep would be inhabited with nice dreams, that she wouldn't forget him, that she would think about him, in whatever way that may be. Could she even feel his presence, or how could he cared for her, or how much he cared for her? The way they organized their weekend allowed for a more festive time. It was the time for outings. It was out of the question for Ambre to get bored, to stay shut in the tight and bleak flat again. She had to have a change of scenery. So they went to lively places, the pool, the amusement park, the ice rink, the movie theater, restaurants. She had to try everything. Every week was a different universe. Running alone at a brisk pace with her impeccably polished shoes, the little girl jumped from ride to ride while hanging on Tristan's arm. It warmed his heart to see her having innocent fun. This is such a lovely story. I wonder how they're gonna ruin it. Stories like this don't just stay happy to the very end. No, they gotta mess with your head somewhere in the middle, and then you get a happy ending. Maybe. Or maybe they just leave you in tears or something. It warmed his heart to see her having innocent fun. In front of a smile that big, he could only imitate the girl's good mood despite himself. What a lovely time we have. Every time when she would inevitably ask for a dessert, a pancake or an ice cream, he would watch her spreading... Oh my god. He would watch her spreading whipped cream on her face out of the corner of his eye. The temptation to lick the dab of ice cream from the tip of her nose or the corner of her lips was nearly too much. What? That's a little what? Such a display. I mean, I guess he's trying to be like the fatherly figure here, but we still have to remember, not his child. Such a display, both childish and unhealthy, tickled his darkest thoughts, his most pitiful thoughts. However hard he rejected them. Oh my god. However hard he rejected them with all his strength, his hands became sweaty and trembling. His hands confessed his torments. But Ambre couldn't understand. Ambre was a little girl. Only a little girl. The months flew by at breakneck speed. Months? Have we yet to find her family? Did they just leave her there? What? Tristan refused to admit it, but his young friend was growing up. He wanted to ignore the fact, turn a blind eye, but the unstoppable passage of time had already started to do its work. Ambre was going through a strange crisis. That evening, she was particularly angry and proclaimed vigorously, "I don't want to be a child anymore." How so? How so? I want to become older. Well then, that's gonna take some time. But you have plenty of time for this, Ambre. I want to become older faster. That way I could do more things. The 30-year-old man sighed. He obviously did not know how to answer such assertions. He had never had a child, and he was not very good at calming down revolts. Regardless what? Taken aback, he left the girl to sulk in the living room to go take a long, relaxing shower. While he was soothing his worries in the rush of hot water, she displayed an angry pout. That's not fair. I wish I could be older right now. If only I had a model. I wonder what Tristan's wife looked like, for example. I'm sure that she was a kind person. But he never wants to talk about it. He avoids the subject. It could be that he is hiding something from me. Intrigued, Ambre took advantage of his absence to open a drawer she had never touched before. Inside, under the telephone directory, was a big leather notebook. Convinced she had found a treasure, she grabbed it and opened it. It was a photo album. Spread on the pages were bright smiles and tender gestures. Aw, we were happy. We had a wonderful life. What happened? Browsing through the pictures, the little girl discovered her guardian, young and dashing, in the arms of a coquettish young lady. What? A coquettish? I don't know. The other one. Dressed soberly and tastefully. She was strolling along the seashore with a shawl on her shoulders, or in a park holding an ice cream. But what caught her eye was a very specific picture that towered in the center of the album. Tristan, wearing a suit, was leading his lover out of a church with clumsy footsteps under a shower of flower petals. She looked so happy, so fulfilled, in her large, refined white dress, that Ambre was stupefied. All the more so as the bride looked exactly like her. Huh? She's so pretty. What are you looking at? Tristan's sudden appearance made her jump, so much that she dropped the forbidden object. His gaze darkened immediately. You searched through the closet to see what my wife looks like, didn't you? She answered in a shaky voice, guiltily. Yes. Are you going to scold me? Of course not. I just would have preferred that you didn't see it. Why? Why don't you ever talk about her? I want to know. He sighed, appearing upset as he looked in those begging eyes, eyes that he had never been able to resist for long. Reluctantly, he sat down on the couch and told her how he had met the one he thought would be the love of his life, and related all that they had gone through together. Ambre listened with wide-eyed attention. She liked that story very much. Tristan seemed to briefly get younger as he invoked the past, describing how head over heels he had been for her and how happy she had made him. Their peaceful and ordinary everyday life was something the little girl envied. Caught up in the tale, she couldn't help but pressure him. And then? What happened? Until the light shining in the man's green eyes brutally vanished. And then she left. Where to? Far away to a place where I can't reach her anymore. Every day I pray that she'll somehow hear me, that she'll wake up, that she'll remember me. Wait, did she die? I don't know if she'll ever emerge from that dream that's keeping her captive. Is she dead? Sometimes it feels like that. But no, she's alive, just in a different world from mine. Oh, she is, but what do you mean different world? If I could have joined her, I would have sacrificed everything for her. And today, she's forgotten me. Forever. That's sad. Tristan sighed again, head down as a heavy, crushing silence came between them. Ambre stared at the photo, bewitched by the woman's smile. Deep down in her heart, she had an odd thought. If I was older, I could replace Tristan's wife, and he wouldn't be sad anymore. Oh, well then, wait. It's it's a lovely thought. It's kind, it's adorable, but I don't know. I just get a weird feeling. That night, she left a devastated Tristan lying as immobile as a statue on the sofa, slipping between the covers of her cozy bedsheets. She felt helpless. If only I was older. The thought took root more and more violently in her mind, to the point where it became an emergency. She had to become Tristan Mallory's wife. What? What was this? A new routine seized little Ambre. It is now out of the question for her to stay a little girl. She wanted to grow as suddenly as a butterfly, a beauty cursed by its ephemeral life. What? I don't think I read that one right. Thus began a kind of adolescence. She no longer woke up in the morning when Tristan went to work. She waited until midday to surface, and took her meal at that time. Tristan did not call her the usual hour anymore either. He knew that she would not be in the mood. Aw. Oh, but we're still watching the cartoons. Yeah! After a brief meal, the young girl watched television while leafing through magazines bought with her pocket money her benefactor gave her. Her afternoon fluctuated between American TV shows and beauty tips. Between the pages of the magazine, she learned how to become pretty to seduce men. What? An idea she liked to I don't think that's an idea someone of your age should be liking. She wanted Tristan to look at her, to take an interest in her in a different way. But Tristan shouldn't. To be seen as a woman, she had to act as a woman. But she absolutely didn't know how to do this. These magazines, which were overflowing with tips of all kinds, seemed like an El Dorado to her. Through the article, she learned how to act, how to become a true lady. It wasn't very complicated. She only had to keep a close watch of all her gestures, to constantly control every movement, so as to convey the best image possible. She had to track down all human weaknesses, every inconvenience, and walk with a relaxed and self-assured air. But not too much, or she would frain. She would crush. Ambre nodded as she was reading what the editor wrote. Of course, she had to be open and smiling, but not so much that she came across as exuberant. She had to laugh often, but not too loudly, as it was that hysterics would do. God. She had to be independent and take initiative, but only if the situation lends itself to it, and in a non-threatening way. She had to show herself to be as natural as possible when enhancing all of her advantages with a note of makeup. Ambre understood the necessity of buying something in order to become a true woman. She had to dress in a feminine way to demonstrate her worth while being sober enough as to not attract unwanted attention. And then she was advised to learn to listen to men, not to talk too much, which would be selfish, to be discreet but present, available as soon as he needed without really showing it to him. We are going through this process with her, to become a woman. I have no words. I have no words to describe what I am feeling right now. I don't know. As she turned page after page, the young girl felt a pressing urge to spend money on all of the products shown in the advertisements and praised by the editors. After all, she would need them in order to seduce her brave Tristan. God, that is not something she should be saying. How could she have the slightest chance without cheating a little? Further down, a revealing psychological test claimed that Ambre would gain more affection by acting like a fragile little girl. Men needed to be reassured of their virility. What? Virility? I don't know. Virility, and of their protector's role. Plus, she was too vulnerable, too frail. She couldn't manage anything worthy without some help. She had to find validation in his eyes, validation of her existence. If he thinks that I'm pretty, I'll be pretty, like in that photograph. Like this, Ambre spent her afternoons reading tips from women's magazines, training herself to conceal. When she wasn't watching series, often romantic ones, she was shopping in the city to bring back clothes, accessories, or cosmetics. Wait, alone? The city, like the television, constantly spat images of absolute and infinite love, of a perfect and purifying love, like a drug, an obligation, a flawless pleasure, and an order. Every billboard sold the same dream. Oh, so cliche, oh so desirable. It was the pursuit of the fairy tale formula, and they had lived happily ever after in opulence, and had lots of children. Novel and movie heroines all ran after the same goal, after the lure of profit, wealth, and luxury, a life where everything would be easy, but where everything would have lost its taste, a dull and hollow life, and an eternal masquerade. But this existential emptiness was just as easy to fill. You only had to consume and be consumed. What? You only needed to devote your soul to spend even more, to remove the vestiges of nature, to hide that ridiculous body, too personal, too imperfect, too real, and to replace it with an ethereal a mirage. You only needed to spend without restraint in order to conquer the piggy bank of your dreams. A mere machine that gives banknotes and weak orgasms. What? To present yourself like a diamond, a beautiful shiny trinket that everyone would have in their living room. You only needed to destroy your own value, immaterial, and replace it with cold, hard cash. And then you only needed to bask in idleness, go around in circles in your cage, without any purpose to continue living in a dignified way, wandering like a lost soul, disguised as a clown that drips with red and grim automation. You needs to fill the hole, that S shouldn't be there. You need to fill the hole, the absence of life, the disease that devours your blood, all your authenticity, with money, always more money. Buy, until you forget the unease, the angst. Ambre admired today's celebrities, those picture-perfect idols on which nothing stuck out, bodies without even the slightest trace of life. Their uninspired songs only glorified a permanent state of pleasure without toil. Like mass-produced Barbie dolls, all these celebrities merged into a single canon of beauty deemed as unsurpassable, absolute truth. The stars divided into the endless cycle of vanity with such ease that it was truly fascinating. Every minute that passed after a singer's first success was a minute of intense scrutiny as the whole world glued its eyes on the morbid show that was her slow suffocation, her imminent drowning. Nothing could be more enjoyable, more exquisite than staring at those young women slowly being engulfed by the shadowy tentacles of their dreams. I have no idea what we're talking about anymore. They sacrificed their bodies to the cut of surgical scalpels to the point of no longer resembling themselves anymore, to the point of transforming into some kind of wonderful monsters. They had rejected their personalities and histories to melt into the mold, to conform themselves to the public's every expectation, to become the showcase of modernity, the icons of this single form of happiness that was advertised at every street's corner. A form of happiness that little Ambre stared hungrily at. Becoming a star seemed out of her reach, but looking like one was a duty that women's magazines never ceased to remind her of. That frivolous press, so uncomplicated, so fraught with consequences. When Tristan Mallory came home at the end of his working day, he found Ambre waiting hand and foot trying to cook delicious meals for him. Ambre always elegant, craving to look her best, like a perfect little housewife with a strong character. He was past the point of missing the innocent days, but in all honesty, he didn't even understand why the young girl was putting so much effort into becoming such a perfect creature. One evening, while she was cooking a usual dish, one which the recipe had recommended on TV, accomplished by a candlelit table in order to celebrate his birthday, it's our birthday, he dared to ask, "But Ambre, why are you doing this all for me?" Oh God, that face. The honest question hit her like a ton of bricks. His complete incomprehension sounded like an insult. She'd suddenly spent hours gussing up in the bathroom, hours to appear fit to be seen, fresh. She probably spent hours tidying the house, cleaning every nook and cranny until it was spotless. Did we say something bad? Oh God, what did... take it back! She probably spent hours decorating, hours taking care of this godforsaken roast. Laboriously cutting vegetables, and here he was asking her why she was trying so hard. The knife in her hands fell violently to the floor, emanating a metallic sound very much like an ill omen. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Ambre's voice trembled dangerously. While getting close, he noticed her hands were shaking frantically. Eyes wide open, soaked in tears, she exploded. "Because I want you to love me. I want you to look at me. Why don't you ever look at me? Oh God. Am I not good enough? Is that it? I will never be as good as she was I? Will I? She? But Ambre, who are you talking about?" Dumbfounded, Tristan held her in his arms as tightly as he could. No, he truly couldn't understand. He couldn't understand such intense and sudden sobs. Reassured by his gesture, Ambre wanted to explain herself. I'm sorry. I'll never be able to replace her." "Who are you trying to replace, Ambre? Tell me." "Your wife. I can see that her departure left you very sad. I wanted to bring a smile back to your face. I wanted to take her place so you'd forget about her." For a split second, Tristan Mallory was breathless. It was surreal. He would have pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming, but no. The pain in his chest was far too real, too pitifully carved in him. How could he answer such a declaration? How could he find the right words? Catching his breath with difficulty, the 30-year-old man took Ambre by the shoulders and looked in her eyes for a long time. After a brief sigh, he affirmed, "Listen, I will never be able to forget my wife, alright? It's impossible. But that doesn't mean I don't want you. It's the exact opposite, actually. You're very dear to me, Ambre. You hear me? I need you. You already have her place. So please, stop crying. Don't make it even harder than it is." The young girl shyly dried her eyes, and her features changed to an adorably naive expression. She looked sincerely despairing. "You're okay with me? What made you think I abandoned you, huh?" "Oh God, we're crying. I just looked up." "Nothing. It's just that you seem to love her so much. I'm a bit jealous." "Why is that?" "I don't know. When I look at those pictures, I can't help but tell myself I must absolutely make you happy. I think I love you." Oh, wait, oh God. We're already here. It's been like what? I don't even know. I'm not giving time. I'm not checking any times. I don't know how long it's been. Oh God. Tristan felt all the courage and determination he had worked up melting away overnight, and he started sobbing as well. "But I love you too. I loved you for so long. I loved you so much it makes me sick." "For real? You're not treating me like a kid?" "Of course not." "Then prove it. Wait, what? Prove it how? What do you mean? Yes, what do you mean? Show me you regard me as a true woman. What? You want me to do that? Oh, God. Ambre silently nodded. She seemed dead set on it. So Tristan softly kissed her lips. Dude, she's a child. Were we supposed to find her parents? Oh God, the warm and pleasurable feeling went to his head. For a few seconds, he felt as if he was holding his wife in his arms, as if she had actually come back for real. That delicate skin, which smelt deliciously like vanilla, reminded him of happy days. Long afternoons spent laughing in the sun, peaceful evenings under the light of the stars or by a fire, of a shared umbrella to shelter from the storm. She was here, so close, so far, within a finger's reach. He only had to close his eyes and believe in his dream, in this dream. The illusion smiled faintly at him. At this moment, at his limit, he embraced her. If only you knew how much I loved you. I'm conflicted. He had so many things he would have wished to tell her, so many that the flood of words blocked his throat and nothing could come out. So for lack of words to make her understand his feelings, he used his body. What turn are we taking? Web of lies. Oh God, what did we do? Oh God, what did we do? Oh my God, what did I do? Oh my God. My heart's racing, when dawn's rays of light crept through the window, Ambre was deep asleep, lying atop Tristan's still lukewarm body. Oh God, what did we do? Eyes surrounded by dark circles, the weight of regrets, a fatigue he couldn't get rid of. He stared at her with a sad smile on his face. It was just a dream, wasn't it? When you'll wake up, you'll be a child again, right? The only answer he got was a light groan, softened by such a serene face. He left a kiss on her fresh cheeks. As soon as he did, the sleeping lips spread to form a happy smile. I wonder what you're dreaming about. Say, won't you invite me over there? I don't... I have so many... No, I don't. I only have one question. What did we do? Oh God, what did we do? From that strange night on, in what is that? In a paroxysm of lies. What? Ambre got Tristan to agree to become a more or less official couple. Thus, she demanded an engagement ring and did not hesitate to walk the streets locked to his arm. Wait. Again, where are the parents? I don't know how to feel about this. Soon it wasn't enough for her anymore. Eager, various even, she couldn't merely settle for the girlfriend status. She needed more. She needed to surpass the woman who preceded her, her invisible rival, whose shadow always loomed like a Damocles sword. Is that what that is? So she dragged Tristan to wedding shops while dreaming of a perfect ceremony of her big day. The magazines, the advertisements, the television, the whole world was yelling at her that she was what happiness was. So wasn't it only natural for her to embrace it to its... I am stuttering over words because I am just confused. Embrace it to the fullest? Wasn't it every little girl's dream? Marriage was promised and sold like a real-life fairy tale application. There was a very expensive, beautiful dress, a princess's dress. The bride had to be the story's heroine, and everyone only had eyes for her. And then, she would have She would have at her service all the cosmetic and superficial accessories in which the stars constantly bathed. Famous singers all lived in some sort of paramount's wedding, a strange and unlikely fantasy. Ambre wanted to taste this heaven the world was constantly singing the praises of. So she pushed Tristan to please her. He proposed to her, and both of them organized a ceremony with great prompt. Oh my god, we're actually doing this. Wait, oh. Wait, what? 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 Cinderella syndrome. What's happening? On that day, Ambre, still so frail, seemed to shine more brightly than ever. On that day, Ambre thought she had finally erased all traces of her rival. But it still wasn't enough. The life she was living didn't seem perfect enough just yet. She still needed something else to be entirely fulfilled. She wishes to start a family. After all, the world had sold marriage to her as a never-ending fairy tale. But she still needed a goal to keep on living. And it was said that her biological role, her natural role, was, of course, to procreate. What? Where is she getting these thoughts? True women should obviously yearn for becoming mothers, an unchanging law that was probably written somewhere in a fragment of DNA code. A true woman had the duty of having a child, preferably a girl, so that she could educate her with the same moral code she had received. Her living doll to play with, brush her hair, play tea time with. You ought to busy yourself with something, fill your existence, or access some kind of ethereal fantasy, one or the other. A desire, a project as a couple, or just an implicit order that came deep within your entrails. What? Ambre had read and seen everywhere that those who don't want kids were automatically unhappy without realizing it, immature, almost disabled by a selfishness or necrosis. What? Isn't that... Okay, we're still going. True love shouldn't bear True love should bear fruits, just like the princess could only be revealed as such by a prince. That's where Cinderella's myth lay. Ambre didn't know it yet, but the clock had started ticking long ago, and it was dangerously approaching its final moments. What? What? Oh god, we're actually having this talk. Oh god. Tristan Mallory took rather coldly the eagerness of the young girl to procreate. He did his best to clumsily claim that they had more than enough time, that they would see that later, that she was ready to wait, but she kept insisting more and more, or that he was ready to, right? That he was ready to wait, yeah. Months went by and the young girl never got tired of reciting all the things she intended to do with that, providential, oh my god, providential, whatever, baby. I just gotta keep going. Describing from A to Z how she would dispense their education and the accessories that would be necessary. Her biggest wish was to give birth to a little girl she could gussy up as much as she wanted. She was sighing, while imagining how she would shower her with gifts, how she would go shopping with her and evolve into a kind of cool and friendly big sister-like mother. Scolding? She was way too afraid that her future child would hate her to even think of it. Her angel had to love her. It was obvious. She would be a good mother, and everything would go perfectly in the best of all worlds. Ambre spared no arguments to convince Tristan. Motherhood became in turn the realization of a little girl's dream, the logical and infallible consequences of a lasting relationship, the greatest proof of love that could ever be, a way to conform to the norm. I don't know how to feel. Months slowly, dreadfully went by to the rhythm of Ambre's growing obsession. She was always eagerly awaiting a sign, watching out of her body for the indication of a good news. Trying after trying, she repeated that this time would be the one. Oh my god, we've been doing it. Oh my god. Oh my god, we've been doing it more and more. I mean, I know, we already, I'm stuttering. We already did the thing once before, but oh my god, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I thought we just like, you know, we slept in the same bed, nothing happened, blah blah blah. Yeah, it was all innocent, right? But no, oh my god, we're actually doing things. Oh no, I don't. Let's continue. However, she had to face the fact that something was wrong, that something wasn't working. She might well desperately attempt her hardest. She still wasn't pregnant. A shower of doubt started pouring down on her mind. Tristan tried to minimize the problem, assured her that it wasn't a big deal, that it would happen someday, and that they had so many other things to do together. But Ambre wasn't listening anymore. She absolutely wanted to go see a doctor to get her body checked up. Oh no, we had to explain this to the doc. To understand the problem and fix it, she wasn't going to give up so close to her goal. Her partner avoided the subject as much as possible, appeared distant, and refused any medical checkup. Every time the young girl approached him to talk, he gritted his teeth, feeling that the situation was becoming more and more tense. She was getting too close to the truth, and she couldn't afford it. There was too many things at stake. So she held on. He tried all he could to reassure his love, to convince her to get rid of those unwanted thoughts. Oh, the music's gone. The music's gone. Oh no. But Tristan, shoulders yielding under the weight of his burden, was too tired to anticipate Ambre's every move. He didn't see the disaster coming, even though he could have foreseen it. Oh no. Oh no, she's going alone. Oh god, we're gonna get arrested. Oh god, we're gonna get arrested. We're going to jail. We're going to jail, guys. Well, it was nice being here. One day, while he was at work, she took the opportunity to go to a doctor who resided in the city's center hospital. She explained the situation and begged for him to help her bear children. Oh no. He gave a long sigh while staring at her from head to toe. In an unconscious voice, he kindly whispered to her, "You know, there's no need to try so hard. You'll only hurt yourself further. Don't bury your head in the sand. You're very well aware of your sterility, aren't you?" Wait, what? Wait, he's not concerned about the other thing? It's not the end of the world, you know. There are assisted procreation techniques that work very well nowadays, like in vitro fertilization, for example. Why don't you try to think about it? I'm sorry, doctor, what? That is a different thing altogether. He's not concerned. The young doctor... Okay, hang on. Actually, this is a little loud for me. The young doctor had tried to be as positive and comforting as he could, but the harm had already been done. Ambre was in shock. Her dreams had just crumbled to pieces in an ocean of dust and litter. She left the hospital completely distraught, speechless, stiff, moving as mechanically as a robot. She heard nothing of the last kind words the doctor pronounced. All she knew was that she had to go home. Once outside, the sky's blinding gray light made her lose her bearings. She was in the city where she had always lived, yet the buildings, the cars, the people passing by, they had all turned to ghostly and haggard silhouettes in a dark, upside-down world. Her sight became blurred little by little as she staggered aimlessly. The city crumbled into a gigantic pile of ashes. The voices of the pedestrians around her corrupted into an inaudible language, metallic and meaningless. Ambre managed to reach the park, instinctively, not really knowing how. A terrifying dread was seizing her from inside. Unable to see, unable to understand anymore, she let herself fall on the grass, pupils wide open. All of a sudden, the gray, filtered image of her past came back to her, and reality brutally hit her in the stomach. It's impossible. Why? Why me? Even though I am normal. I'm not trash. No. It's impossible. My dream. I wanted to be happy. I feel sad now, but she's a child, right? Right? She remembered the mirror. The mirror. The crude light above the mirror that showed her all her flaws, all her imperfections. The excruciating need to be perfect, to be flawless. Flawless like the models, the actors, the singers that were on every screen, that were constantly seen. To be seen, to be admired, to have every corner of yourself analyzed. Never relax, be... I don't know how this goes. Be irreproachable. I think that's what it is. Take care of everything, hide everything, keeping everything deep inside. Even if the fragile surface is going to crack under the weights of lies. The mirror in front of which she carefully put on makeup for long minutes. That miraculous product that could erase those damned imperfections, those damned traces of humanity. Shave her legs, not leaving a single hair. Frame her brows. Choose the best outfit possible to show herself to advantage. Add a layer of makeup on her face that would make the identity disappear in favor of a single form of beauty. A majestic beauty, an artificial beauty, impossible to attain. The mirror, in front of which she would weight herself, in front of which she would tell herself that she should be careful of what she eats, becoming thinner, becoming more beautiful, more desirable. Throw up the excess, keep only what's essential. Admire yourself in front of the mirror. Oh, okay, she is spiraling down. She is spiraling down. I don't know. I don't know. I'm scared, guys. Throw up that unwanted vital pulsation. Throw up what's dirty to become cleaner, inside and outside. Destroy the dirtiness. Everything that is dirty. Become pure, immaculate, perfect. The mirror, the eyes of others, that permanent mere vanity. Believing you exist, destroying yourself bit by bit, becoming unable to survive by yourself, to stand the growing loneliness, the pathetic struggle against your own being. Mind almighty against the body, forcing it into submission, forcing it to remodel itself to fit your every wish, forcing it to become your soul's one and only avatar. Not only being able to accept yourself anymore, the endless impetus after time, nature, a constant effort to kill yourself, to prevent yourself from existing. An ethereal body, fantasized, a corpse's body. The mirror is scrutinizing the depths of my heart. It knows everything. It sees everything. I can't escape it. I can't escape. Locked in by her obsessions, Ambre convulsed frantically while letting out piercing shrieks. It has to stop! It has to stop! Suddenly, the emotional pressure became so strong that she completely lost all sense of reality, and her mind cracked up. She didn't move anymore. She no longer pronounced a single word. Motionless on the park's grass, terrified eyes immobile. You could have believed she was dead if she hadn't been breathing faintly. The world seemed to freeze, explode, die in an insufferable shriek of agony. Her world. The clock had struck midnight, but Cinderella wasn't ready to give up on her dream. That was a something. It was 7:30 p.m. On that beautiful yet cold autumn day. The wind shook the frail tree's branches across the street. Tristan Mallory made his slow, tired way. A whirlwind of leaves caught his attention, and he stopped to contemplate them for a few minutes. Hang on a second, this is the beginning. A spray of colors danced around him. Fragments of red, orange, yellow spread at random, forming a mosaic that stretched on as far as his eyes could see. Wait a minute. This is just... Okay, no. It was just weird. It seemed so similar. Coming back to his senses, the 30-year-old man shook his head. Now wasn't the time to be daydreaming. He had to go home. Ambre was waiting. As usual, she would probably seek advice about her future pregnancy. She would ask what name they should give their child and how they should decorate his room. As usual, she'd worry about not seeing her stomach swell. And as usual, he would have to minimize the problem and pretend it was no big deal to delay the unavoidable. The long day already weighed on his shoulders, but it was completely honest. I did it again. But if he was completely honest, work wasn't the most tiring thing in his life. After all, an honest, well-paid job was somewhat of a luxury these days. Like any model employee, he constantly accomplished the task handed to him. No more, no less. No, what was really destroying him was a completely different form of fatigue. An appalling and crushing solitude that had been shadowing him for years, ever since his wife had lost her mind. Oh god, she lost her mind. Wait, what? I thought... Wait a minute, did she lose her mind and think that she was a Cinderella person? Or did she lose her mind and think that she had become a child again? And that Ambre is our actual wife, but she just thinks she's a child. No. Yes? No. Yes? I don't know anymore. I never knew. The light tinkling of the front door opening brought him back to earth. He was already at his flat. Ambre should have been there to greet him with a wide smile. Instead, a sad, silent living room was waiting for him. A shiver traveled down his spine as he entered the room. Where was she? Could it be happening again? Driven by an almost desperate urge, he didn't even bother hanging up his coat correctly before slamming open all the doors, one after the other, hoping she would only be sleeping in a corner. Each time, the same emptiness answered his pleas. He felt a rising dread within. His last hope, the last door, the forbidden room. Wait, have we done all this before? Have we gone through the whole story and then she learns the thing, she loses her mind in the park and she reverts back to the first time she met us? What? He opened it slightly and peeked inside. Of course, there was no one inside. That would have been too easy. He fell heavily onto the sofa. The crushing solitude came back in full force, crushing him again and again, wounding his face with invisible cuts, the cuts of time. It was happening again. Ambre had gone crazy again. She had run away once more. And once more he would have to find her before she got hurt. He would have to play the part of a stranger, impassive, reveal nothing of the torment devouring him alive. Oh my god, what? This is a normal thing with him. Oh my god. All of a sudden, Tristan Mallory felt immensely exhausted. He held his head in his hands, staring at the floor for a long time. He needed to calm down, even just a little, so that he could pretend he wasn't affected by it. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he abruptly got up to his feet. He gathered all of the framed pictures that had been displayed and stowed them away in a closet. The memories needed to be out of sight. Wait, were they pictures? If Ambre discovered the pictures of her happy alter ego too quickly, she was bound to ask questions. This time, he had to hide them better than in the last cycle. He had to stall for time. He stored them in a drawer and locked it. The frames didn't take up too much space after all. There weren't that many of them. He always put the same ones on the buffet. She never noticed it. I'm really confused. I'm understanding what's going on, but I'm confused in general. When he was sure that there were no more pictures sticking out, Tristan put his coat back on and rushed outside. It was chilly, a bit dark, but there was still enough light to see clearly. It was the ideal time to take a walk. At least that's what he once might have thought. As he hurried along the sidewalk, the 30-year-old man was anything but relaxed. Incredibly nervous, he walked around the places that were most familiar to him, looking for a serenity that had seemed to be definitively out of reach. He had to find her. He had to bring her back home. While passing a park near his home, Tristan Mallory suddenly heard a high-pitched, almost inaudible plea. His heart jumped, and he stopped. Oh my god, she's older! Oh my god! Round and round like a carousel. Oh, that explains why the doctor wasn't so scared. Oh my god, it's my real wife. Oh my god. Okay, in the dim light of the setting sun, he made out the silhouette of a little girl sitting on a swing with her head bowed. Tears were rolling down her cheeks. Afraid of startling her, he approached slowly and took a closer look. He was indeed standing in front of his wife, Ambre Mallory, who used to be so charming. She was still pretty, but seemed to have aged prematurely, while locks here and there brightened up her long hair to the point where you couldn't tell her age anymore. With that appearance, she could have been an old lady, yet she was barely in her 30s, like Tristan, who didn't appear any younger. Back hunched, looking haggard, eyes more lifeless than ever, she was crying. Her clothes were crumpled. She had neither a coat nor a scarf, and she bore several scratches, as if she had been in a fight. Had she rolled on the floor again? Had she harmed herself? Regardless, she had most likely gotten hurt during her run away. The park was completely deserted, and she seemed to have been there for a while. She must have run away several hours ago, probably in the early afternoon. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been in a state where she would be able to cry. She would have stayed motionless like a doll, unable to show the slightest sign of life, until finally she'd come back to her senses. For a second, Tristan Mallory felt the temptation to... Oh my god, that's why we... What? Felt the temptation to abandon her there, to leave her to her fate. But very quickly he mentally chastised himself. He couldn't do that. No, what? She was his wife. He loved her. He had to take care of her, no matter what. But even so, sometimes he almost wished she would get lost for good. Oh my god, what? That she'd disappear, so he wouldn't have to live through this endless circle again. His conscience protested that he would feel too guilty, that he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. No, there's no way you can forgive yourself for leaving your wife to the state that she is if she's like this. What? There was no way out. He had to live with this burden. So he placed himself in front of her and asked in a soft voice, "Is something wrong?" At first, his wife seemed not to hear him. She choked on her sobs, hiccuped, and shuddered. He was now sure of it. She had forgotten everything once again. Patiently, Tristan Morley stroked her hair and repeated, "Why are you crying? What happened?" It took her several minutes to calm down a bit, but eventually she wiped at her tears and answered with a faint voice, interrupted by sobs. I don't remember. I think I've lost something important. Really important. But I can't remember what it was. The memories of... Oh my god, I feel... Oh man. Wow. Tristan Morley sighed, feeling a mixture of compassion and pity. Always that nagging obsession, that curse. She seemed so lost, so vulnerable. He wanted to hold her so tightly that her sadness would melt away, and at the same time, within him, a voice was telling him that he shouldn't be too forceful, that he shouldn't take advantage of her weakness. Ambre didn't recognize him anymore after all. He had to wait, even if the desire to ease his own loneliness was suffocating. The woman he loved was there, just in front of him, and he couldn't do so much as touch her. So he tried to look confident, to look reassuring. Yet, in front of this sad little girl, he did not feel confident at all. "Are you all alone? Where are your mommy and daddy?" "I don't know." "Do you live far away from here?" "I don't know." "What's your name?" "Ambre." "Well, Ambre, you can't stay out in the wind. You're going to catch a cold eventually. And you don't want to get sick, do you?" "No, I hate being sick." "See? You've got to warm yourself up somewhere. It'll be night soon." "But I don't know where to go." "In that case, why don't you think about coming to my place? It's not far away from here, and it'll be a much better place to sleep than the swing." Oh my god. Oh, my heart feels emotions. Ambre seemed wary, but she had no other choice but to follow him. He gently reached a hand to her, and for the first time, she lifted her eyes. They were washed out, blurry with tears, and hesitant. Those were the eyes of a little girl stuck in a woman's body. The eyes of a woman haunted by her little girl obsession. The eyes of a trapped person. He thought it a good idea to force a smile, to appear reassuring. Even with the fatigue, Tristan Morley showed the most convincing smile he could and took her hand, so fine, so frail, to help her get to her feet. Oh my god. Are we doing this all again, but with her? The young girl's steps were wobbly and weak. She had probably not eaten all day long. Carefully, he led her to his place while making sure she wouldn't trip. The 30-year-old man removed his coat and shut the front door behind them. "Make yourself at home. I'll cook you something." Passing through the kitchen, he turned to the light in the living room so that his flat would look less gloomy. While searching his fridge for a potential meal, he periodically stole several glances over the counter. In the living room was Ambre. Ambre was still walking around, a bit wild, still on the defensive. She explored this new environment by looking around, admiring the ornaments. Unfortunately, she didn't find much to pique her interest. It was a bland house, almost too bland. There were no clues about the occupants' lives. The pictures of their happy days were carefully hidden. Oh man, this is sad. Taking advantage of Tristan's being distracted by a packet of noodles, she escaped to the hallway and tried to find the bathroom to relieve an urgent need. She found it quickly enough, and before returning to the hallway, she noticed that all the doors were wide open except for one. Strangely, before she even had time to think about it, She was drawn to that doorway. Intrigued, Ambre felt magnetically attached by the slightly open door. Because it is her room. Aw, man. Just one peek was all she wanted, but she struggled to see anything through the crack. Was this Bluebeard's cabinet? A frightening tomb where Tristan Mallory stowed the corpses of his former wives? The little girl pushed the door open, entered the room, and switched the light on. In the kitchen, Tristan sighed. He was cooking Ambre's favorite meal, but his eyes were suddenly itchy. Shoulders down, he noticed his wife's absence. She must have found her room, he mentally grumbled. His hands were mechanically repeating the steps necessary to prepare the meal, but his mind was elsewhere. Little by little, he slowed down until he stopped completely, still as a robot. He let himself fall against the wall. God, what have I done to deserve this? When is she going to come back? When is she going to wake up? His face in his hands, he cried silently in the empty living room. Will my tears reach you one day? When he felt better, he headed towards the forbidden room and caught Ambre playing with stuffed animals. His gaze softened. I suppose that I can't do anything, he thought to reassure himself. Without a word, he went to sit next to her. On the bed, the young woman was moving the stuffed animals' hands while making them speak in her weak voice. She was narrating a stuffed animal tea party and seemed to be enjoying herself very much. The light was back in her eyes. Suddenly she got mad at a plump cow and scolded her harshly. We're doing all this again. It's dirty. Hang on. I'm just gonna do a little... There's no skip. Oh wait. Or does that just move the thing on its own? Yeah, that just moves the thing on its own. I guess I'm just gonna continue reading. If you would like to stay, please stay. If you wish to see something new, I will try putting in at some point when something new is gonna happen. As punishment, she sent the cow in a corner while ordering her not to move and replaced it with a pony with long eyelashes. The stuffed animal tea party hosted by the blue monkey was obviously not going as planned. The man examined the girl's every move with care. She finally noticed his presence. That evening, Tristan Mallory admired little Ambre as she wolfed down her food, half amused, half distracted. Seeing her so happy soothed his heart a little, but at the same time, it was heartbreaking. He remembered the blissful days, already long gone, with difficulty, but he still remembered them. He remembered that beautiful young lady. He adored her adorable smile, her cheerfulness, their promises. In front of Ambre's overflowing enthusiasm, Tristan Mallory couldn't help but smile faintly, almost pitifully. So now we're understanding, some of the things he may have said. Yes, that's it, he kept telling himself, as if to reassure himself. All I'm doing is keeping her around until she remembers who she is and what she's lost. Waiting for her to remember, if she ever managed to someday. Wow, this is something. Tristan Mallory could have been an ordinary man with an ordinary life if his daily life hadn't changed dramatically a few years ago to a dire event. Since that day, he was the victim of an infernal cycle, an ordeal that seemed never-ending. He had been so happy, so fulfilled with the woman he loved, the woman he had married. Ambre, so charming, whom he had sworn his life to. Ambre had gone mad. He had never realized how obsessed she was about having children until their doctor announced to them that she was sterile. Oh, we already knew that, but man, an issue that seemed resolvable to him, but to her it was as if she had been dealt the death penalty. They could have put themselves in the hands of science, or just given up on that project altogether to make a new one. They could have been satisfied with their everyday life, but not for her. Ambre wasn't willing to let her little girl's dream go. To change a comma of idealistic fairy tales she was promised. It was a need. It had to go that way, and that way only. Then the pressure she put on herself had the upper hand. She couldn't be perfect. She couldn't conform herself with it's that word, to all the absurd norms imposed to her. I'm getting annoyed that I can't pronounce these words. And it's my own fault. Something in her head, like a fragile thread, broke. She had an emotional breakdown. Right in front of her husband's bewildered eyes, she dived in one go into a kind of insanity, as suddenly as it was a violence from which she didn't want to return. Refusing to face reality, she escaped into a long dream, a long nightmare, where she became untouchable. Ambre reverted to childhood, where everything was easier, where everything was still possible. She didn't recognize her husband anymore, or didn't want to recognize him. She had to pretend not only... Oh, what am I saying? So, he had to pretend not only to her each time, tame her each time, until she would have a new breakdown and everything would reset again. He had to try and make her happy and help her get better each time, even if it meant bending to her every will, even if it meant living in a world of pretend, even if it meant unrequited love on his part. Okay, yeah, this is just me thinking back. One of the things that we used to do with child Ambre was propped her on my shoulders and like flew around like an airplane. Did we do that with like older, taller Ambre? Because I don't think the apartment that we live in, the house we live in, has that kind of ceiling. During this cycle, once more intrigued, Ambre took advantage of his absence to open a drawer she had never touched before. She found the key in her guardian's room. Darn it! Inside was a big leather notebook. Convinced she had found a treasure, she grabbed it and opened it. It was a photo album. Spread on the pages were bright smiles and tender gestures. Aw man, she really was her. Browsing through the pictures, the little girl discovered her guardian, young and dashing, in the arms of a coquettish young lady. Dressed soberly and tastefully, she was strolling along the seashore with a shawl on her shoulders, or in a park holding an ice cream. But what caught her eye was a very specific picture that towered in the center of her album. Oh, in the album. Tristan, wearing a suit, was leading his love out of a church with clumsy footsteps under a shower of petals. She looked so happy, so fulfilled, in her large, refined white dress, that Ambre was stupefied. All the more so as the bride looked exactly like her. She's so pretty. What are you looking at? Tristan's sudden appearance made her jump, so much that she dropped the forbidden object. The 30-year-old man's gaze darkened immediately. You searched through the closet to see what my wife looked like, didn't you? She answered in a shaky, guilty voice. Yes. Are you going to scold me? Of course not. I just would have preferred that you didn't see it. Why? Why don't you ever talk about her? I want to know. He sighed, appearing upset as he looked in those begging eyes. Eyes he had never been able to resist for long. Reluctantly, he sat down on the couch and told her how he had met the one he thought would be the love of his life, and related all that they had gone through together. Oh man! So yeah, she was in a different world. The world that she's living in now. Oh man, I feel sad. Ambre listened with wide-eyed attention. She liked that story very much. Tristan seemed to briefly get younger as he invoked the past, describing how head over heels he had been for her and how happy she had made him. Their peaceful and ordinary everyday life was something the sweet girl envied. Caught up in the tale, she couldn't help but pressure him. And then, what happened? Until the light shining in the man's green eyes brutally vanished. And then, she left. Where to? Far away place where I can't reach her anymore. Every day I pray that she'll somehow hear me, that she'll wake up, that she'll remember me. I don't know if she'll ever emerge from that dream that's keeping her captive. Is she dead? Sometimes it feels like it, but no, she's still alive. Just in a different world from mine. If I could have joined her, I would have sacrificed everything for her. And today, she's forgotten me forever. That's sad. Tristan sighed again, head down, as a heavy, crushing silence came between them. Could anyone imagine his suffering? Could anyone imagine what it felt like to be in his shoes? To see that your loved one can't even recognize you anymore, that she had forgotten everything about you, about your relationship. When Ambre, the little girl stuck in a woman's body, asked him why he was crying, he wanted to scream. Because I love you. Because we were so happy together. Because I can't live without you. Because I need your presence, your affection. Because I'm all alone. Because you're my wife, the woman I love. I beg of you, come back to me. Get a hold of yourself and snap out of it. But it was useless. He had already tried to shake her, to talk to her like she was his wife. But if he did, she would remain terrified. She would move away from him. She would cry, telling him he shouldn't hurt her. So he gave up. He stopped trying to get his role back. He kept pretending, and suffering got worse. He kept pretending, and his suffering got worse day after day, like a sly disease trying to consume him further. Fake a smile, forget about yourself, don't think about anything other than reassuring her. How could he go on like that without being worn out? Tristan Mallory was no Superman. He was often on the verge of losing it. He despaired to see no progress even, no hope for healing. Would Ambre ever return to normal? He didn't believe that anymore. He'd become too disillusioned. We're doing this again. One evening when he was feeling especially worked up, he dared to yell at the young lady who was doing her best to please him. Oh, he yelled at her this time. He immediately regretted it, but the deed was done. Ambre's voice trembled dangerously. While getting close, he noticed her hands were shaking frantically. Eyes wide open, soaked in tears, she exploded. I'm sorry. I just want you to love me. I want you to look at me. Why do you only look through me? Am I not good enough? Is that it? Or will never be as good as she was, will I? She? But Ambre, who are you talking about? Dumbfounded, Tristan held her in his arms as tightly as he could. No, he truly couldn't understand. He couldn't understand such intense and sudden sobs. He only loved one person in this world. Only one. How could she believe for a second that she had been beaten by someone else? Reassured by his gesture, Ambre wanted to explain herself. Your wife, I can see that her departure left you very sad. I wanted to bring a smile back to your face. I wanted to take her place so you'd forget about her. For a split second, Tristan Mallory was breathless. It was surreal. He would have pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming. But no. The pain in his chest was far too real. Too pitifully carved in him. Okay, I just want to note, I'm sure this music has played before, but I'm now just registering it. This sounds like music you'd hear at like a sacrifice. Like you're about to push a virgin into a volcano, like sacrifice, sacrifice. It's so weird for this kind of moment. I don't know. Ambre, locked up in her little girl's dream, was becoming jealous of herself, and she was trying to surpass her happy alter ego of the past. She was trying to destroy herself from her husband's memory, as if to rewrite the past, like some kind of unconscious suicide. How could he answer such a declaration? How could he find the right words? Catching his breath with difficulty, the 30-year-old man took Ambre by the shoulders and looked in her eyes for a long time. He had to wake her up. He had to make her realize. He had to find a way to tell her. After a brief sigh, he affirmed, "Listen, I will never be able to forget my wife, alright? It's impossible. But that doesn't mean I don't want you. It's the exact opposite, actually. You're very dear to me, Ambre. You hear me? I need you. You already have her place. So please, stop crying. Don't make it harder than it is for me." The young girl shyly dried her tears, and her features changed to an adorably naive expression. She looked sincerely despaired. "You're still okay with me? What made you think I'd abandoned you, huh?" "Nothing. It's just that you seem to love her so much. I'm a bit jealous." "Why is that?" "I don't know. When I look at those pictures, I can't help but tell myself I must absolutely make you happy. I think I love you." Tristan felt all the courage and determination he had worked up melting away overnight, and he started sobbing as well. Did she recognize him just a little? Was that a sign from her subconscious? Had she finally gotten a grip on herself? "But I love you too. I've loved you for so long. I love you so much it makes me sick." "For real? You're not treating me like a kid?" "Of course not." "Then prove it." "What do you mean?" "Show me you regard me as a true woman, that you really love me." Ambre seemed dead set on it, so Tristan softly kissed her lips. Yeah, okay, so this is a little better. This is a lot better. The warm and pleasurable feeling went to his head. For a few seconds, he felt as if he was holding his wife in his arms, as if she could come back for real. The delicate skin. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a big yawn. That delicate skin, which smelt deliciously like vanilla, reminded him of happy days, long afternoons spent laughing in the sun, peaceful evenings under the light of the stars or by a fire, of a shared umbrella to shelter from the storm. She was here, so close, so far, within a finger's reach. He only had to close his eyes and believe in his dream. The illusion smiled faintly at him. At his limit, he embraced her. "If only you knew how much I loved you." He had so many things he would have wished to tell her, so many that the flood of words blocked his throat and nothing could come out. So, for lack of words to make her understand his feelings, he used his body. Oh yes, back to this. When dawn's rays of light crept through the window, Ambre was profoundly asleep, lying on top of Tristan's still lukewarm body, eyes surrounded by dark circles, the weight of regrets, a fatigue he couldn't get rid of. He stared at her with a sad smile on his face. "It was just a dream, wasn't it? When you'll wake up, you'll be a child again, right?" Oh, that's what he meant. He wanted his actual wife, not the child. The only answer he got was a light groaning, softened by such a sincere, serene face. He left a kiss on her fresh cheeks. As soon as he did, the sleepy lips spread to form a happy smile. I wonder what you're dreaming about. Say, won't you invite me over there? We're doing this we're playing the game a second time. Tristan Mallory was wary of the infertile cycle that broiled his prayers in a permanent cacophony. Once more, unbeknown to her, he mimicked a fake wedding ceremony, a fake joy to please her. Never again would the fresh and innocent smile of the pictures return. The masquerade drew out until Ambre started to ask to have children again, and discover the truth one way or another, which would invariably make her plague into madness, as her obsession was so strong. Oh, we're doing this all again! To counter those numerous relapses, the 30-year-old man often went to the hospital with his wife to meet with a psychiatrist in charge of her and review possible changes. Hi, doctor. So, Tristan, how's Ambre's lately? Has her condition improved a little? Not yet. The doctor frowned compassionately. He had been in charge of the Morley case for some time now, and he felt particularly powerless in the face of such an impasse with the young lady. He had tried it all, without success. You never know. Is that why you called me, doctor? He grabbed a pen and played with it nervously while staring at Tristan. No, to be honest, I knew Ambre would relapse again. One of my colleagues told me the other day that allegedly your wife stopped by the hospital to do the usual dramatic routine. She ran into an intern that didn't really know how to deal with the situation. I regularly explained her case to the newbies, but between theory and practice, you know. The poor boy meant well. He told her the truth while trying to sugarcoat it, to make her reflect on it. She had another anxiety attack, obviously. By the time he told her to sit down to call for me, she was already gone. If it had been me, I would have tried to buy you some time. Anyway, what's done is done. There's no need to apologize, doctor. It's not your fault. You know as well as I do she regularly loses it, and lying to her about it doesn't do any good. The fact remains that I booked today's appointment so that I could check on how you're faring and how she's been since the unfortunate incident with my colleague. Nothing's changed. The doctor sighed. He stuck the pen in his coat pocket and stopped walking. While nervously scratching his beard, he mumbled in an understanding tone. Frankly, I'm impressed. I really don't know how you can keep going like this, Tristan. In your place, I wouldn't be able to. But I still have to make you see a doctor too. You never know. You're not safe from having a breakdown just like her. I totally understand, doctor. You know, every cycle, I try to do things a bit differently, but in the end, I'm tired, worn out. I've lost all hope. So all that I can do for her is make her as happy as possible during that golden time where she is living a perfect childhood. All that's left of the woman I love is a shadow. So I hope she'll eventually find rest. The two men gazed at Ambre, who was sitting in the hospital's hallways in the distance, playing like a little girl. Suddenly, Tristan broke the silence, his voice trembling. Sometimes I wonder, is she ever going to get out of the prison she built around herself to avoid suffering? Is she ever going to accept facing the outside world? Or is she going to keep living in an ethereal golden dream where everything's perfect? I wish I could promise you that she'll wake up from that long nightmare, but something inside me thinks she'll never call her obsessions into question. Which is an immense waste. Because of that, she's forsaken herself from a life that could have been wonderful. Meanwhile, Ambre Morley was cheerfully having a chat with what she thought to be another girl of her age. In reality, the young woman was babbling deliriously with dead eyes to her own reflection in the mirror, still stuck in that never-ending dream, free of hardships. You know what? I got a lover. Yes, for real. I'm even going to marry him soon. And we'll be happy until the end of time and have lots of kids, just like in fairy tales. How could it be otherwise? You're right. Every day will be a celebration. If only I didn't have that strange feeling. I know I've lost something important. Really important. Curtains closed. Wait, what? Oh god. We got an achievement? The music's gone? I'm scared again. But I can't remember what it was. The end. Wait, the end? What? No. Oh my. Oh man. That is. I have no words. That was fantastic. That was just. I have nothing to say. Man, the first go around when she was just the little girl, when we had that special moment. Oh man, I was so freaked out. I was really confused in some bits when she had like this like that long monologue about like what it's like to be a. I don't even know. I'm just lost. Oh man. I'm so. God, I feel this is a fantastic story. The art was amazing as well. That it took such a left turn. I never would have saw that coming. I never would have seen something like that coming. I got very confused when she went to see the doctor the first time, and he was so nonchalantly like saying, "Oh, you're sterile, don't you know?" And he's not questioning like why is a child like you having the sex. But yeah, it makes sense because man, she wasn't a child, she was still herself, the older Ambre. And to end it like that, the forever cycle that Tristan's going through, that is, man, I feel I'm so sad right now. I feel bad for both of them, for Ambre and Tristan. Yeah, that's the end. That was a journey. Well, anyway, this has been Ambre. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you'd like to correct me on words that I've mispronounced, please let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed it that much, subscribe for future videos. And, well, until next time, this is 7Fox, signing off.